Hello, and welcome back to my series on making my daughter into a doll. Specifically, Samantha Parkington from the original American Girl doll line. Now, this video is going to be a little bit chaotic, but bear with me. Half of the footage is from a year and a half ago and Iowa, and the other half is from 6 months ago and here in Virginia. It will all make sense in the end, I hope. In June of last year, I made Samantha's play dress for my daughter so I could dress her up with me in my Edwardian clothes. I made it specifically for a photo shoot at a 1901 Victorian House Museum in my hometown, since we were going to be visiting my parents who still live nearby. At that time, I also started the Pinafore apron that goes with the dress, but did not get it done in time for the photo shoot. Little did I know then that we would be moving into our own 1903 Queen Anne style house just 4 months later. Naturally, once we were settled in, I needed to throw a party with my costuming friends to celebrate. I planned a garden party for May of this year, which gave me reason to finally finish the pinafore. Luckily, I had purposely made the dress slightly too big, and it still fit her a year later. I had no pattern that was anywhere close to what I needed to make the pinafore, but luckily it's basically just a lot of rectangles. With limited time before the planned photo shoot, I decided to forego a mock-up and just wing it. I measured the doll costume to get an idea of the proportions I would need. The skirt of the pinafore was the same length as the skirt of the dress, so that part was easy, and the width of both skirts was also similar. The hem of the ruffle on the pinafore was about 2.8 times the width of the skirt, so I rounded up to 3 to make the math easier. Fortunately, I had enough width in the fabric I was using, which was some white cotton sheeting from my mom's fabric stash, to get the bottom ruffle from both selvage edges. That way I would not need to hem it. With a nice firm weave of fabric like this, the easiest way to get long, straight strips is to measure, snip, and rip. As long as the sound of tearing cloth doesn't bother you, it's a very satisfying process. I used the skirt piece from the dress pattern to cut the front and back skirt of the pinafore, then used the bodice pattern to trim away the arm size at the top. And I cut the back skirt in half for the center back opening. I cut out the yoke using the pattern pieces I had adapted from the dress bodice pattern, then ripped more long strips for the ruffle around the yoke. And I cut the yoke lining and a rectangle for the patch pocket. Since I was in Iowa while working on this project, I used my grandmother's old Singer sewing machine, which my mom still has in her sewing studio. This is just me finger pressing the hem on the center back edges before stitching them. It sews beautifully, straight stitch only, and is a joy to work with. I got as far as assembling the yoke and yoke lining before I gave up on finishing in time and packed it away for later. Much later, as it turned out. Here we have the pinafore nearly completed. It has a pocket. It has the lower ruffle. I am realizing now that I did not need to make the arm size nearly that deep, because the yoke is quite large enough for the arm opening, but oh well. I have attached the skirt of the apron to the lining of the yoke, and I'm going to add the ruffle that goes all the way around the yoke on top, and then fold this raw edge under and whip stitch it over top. And then it will just need buttons and buttonholes. Okay, I've just sewn the ruffle around the yoke edge. I gathered it really densely. That was quite fun. I tried to condense the gathers at the corners so that when it's flipped outward, you get a nice round edge instead of it being pulled tight. The ruffle goes all the way around the yoke over the shoulders. Another corner again at the back. And we'll meet at the center back closure. Okay, I have attached the ruffle around the yoke, and I have folded over the top edge of the yoke and pinned it in place to cover the raw edges. Couple changes. On the doll version of this Pinafore, the top and bottom ruffles are the same width, and I tried that originally, but decided that it was too wide for the top, so I took an inch off and then hemmed this so that it's actually even shorter than this one, because this one I'm using the selvage as the hem. But I think proportion-wise, this looks more right, scaled up for my daughter's size. One other thing, I tried it on my daughter with everything pinned the way it is, and I realized that the slope of the shoulders makes this point of the yoke look really funky. Like on the hanger it's fine, but on her they kind of poke up and just look really weird and silly. So I am going to take this seam in and flatten it so that it will be straight across without doing this pointed thing out the shoulder. And then it'll just be stitching this by hand and doing buttons and buttonholes. None of which I filmed, so let's just cut right to the reveal. I have had possibly way too much fun dressing my daughter as my own childhood doll. And don't worry, she's had fun as well. As I said in my previous video, I have plans to make all of Samantha's outfits from the original collection. I have several of the doll outfits, which of course are now considered vintage, and I will reference them as I go along. I will also be referencing the original book illustrations from my childhood before they were re-illustrated and then revamped for Be Forever. Not getting into that. I love the original illustrations. I think they are so charming and Samantha's so pretty. And I really enjoyed a lot of the fashions. Also, in doing a little bit of research for this series, I found that they are fairly remarkably accurate for the early 1900s. So leave me a comment with which Samantha outfit you want to see me do next. Top candidates are the Meet Samantha dress, the tea gown, and her school dress. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give me a like, and if you want to see more, like say if Samantha had a little brother and I dressed up my son as an Edwardian little boy, definitely subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye. This is why Elsa was always so cranky.